Hi, this is the making of Foxhollow. So my name's Tom Hughes, I run Ritual Video, which is a music video production company based in South Wales in the UK. So for the last decade I've been making music videos for bands and making short films, and Foxhollow is my first feature. I shouldn't have come here.
If you go looking for monsters, then you'll find them.
So making found footage films has been something that I've always wanted to do, and I think making stuff in this style has actually been a part of my filmmaking journey since the very beginning when I first started shooting things. When I first started making films, I bought it was a stills camera. It was like a Nikon Coolpix. It was like one of those little bright red digital cameras people take on holiday and stuff, but it shot video in I think 720p maybe. At the time I'd moved from Cardiff in Wales to Shropshire, and I was looking for something to do, wanted something to make. I didn't know anybody around the area, didn't have any friends there, so I was just looking for a way to try and make short film without needing actors. So what I did was I went out to woods around where I lived. Everyone goes to woods because they're free. There were abandoned buildings there. I shot some stuff in there. I shot kind of empty trails, empty buildings, stuff from the woods, because I was a photographer before I was a filmmaker, so every shot had to be, is that every frame a painting thing, which I'm not so concerned with now. I'm more concerned with realism. But I shot all this footage, got it back. I got the music from the Joe Spinell film Maniac from the 80s. There's a slow, sad piece in that. Put that over the top of it and found narration online about missing people going missing in the woods, and put together this little maybe 3-4 minute short film, pretty much none of which was my creation or content. I didn't know how to write a story or anything yet. It was just this kind of narrative of people going missing with footage of the woods. And that style I kind of pursued for a little bit and then forgot about. For probably a decade I worked in film. I was a camera assistant. I started shooting films the way everybody shoots films, long days, full cast and crew. Crews were getting larger, and then COVID happened and everything got stripped back. Budget went out the window, and I was back where I started, me with a camera. So I started shooting everything myself again and not hiring DPs. Started lighting everything myself and started acting in stuff again. I've never really considered myself an actor. It's not something that I know that much about. I just think that because I'm not thinking about it like acting, hopefully it comes across more natural than it would if I was trying to act or I was trying to do lines. It's the reason I don't write a lot of dialogue as well, is because we're improvising a lot of the stuff in these films, especially in Foxhollow. So while COVID was happening, I moved to West Wales. Again, new area, only knew kind of maybe 3 or 4 people there, didn't have any money, didn't have any actors. So again, I bought this camera actually. It's a Sony ZV-1, it's a vlogging camera, and I bought it because you can flip the screen round to see yourself while you're filming. So to test this camera and to make something fun, and because I'd really got into Bigfoot pretty heavy at the time, I went out and I shot what I now know is kind of a remake of the original thing I made. It was about a couple who hiked into the woods and went missing, and then I picked up their trail, went to where they were last seen, and got killed by Bigfoot, which I just did with sound. If I can find that, I'll put that on this disc as well, but I think I've actually lost it. I uploaded it to a YouTube channel that I can't remember the name of. So cut to 5 years later, and I'm back to square one again. I came up with the idea of trying that format one more time, but doing it in a way that I could go camping, me and another actor, Derek Nelson. He does a lot of low budget stuff. He worked with me on the Andrew Jones films for North Bank Entertainment. And my plan was for me and Derek to go camping in the woods for 4 nights. Shoot in the daytimes, shoot in the night times, and come home after basically a long weekend with a feature. So I wrote it to be that. But the further I got into the writing process, the more complex the story became. The more I wanted to put an actual creature in it, not just have it done through sound like I'd done in the past. And the more characters that I found that I needed. The trapper character was born then. Originally it was just 2 friends going to the woods on a camping trip and then coming across Bigfoot, and then the trapper character came in originally as the "you meddling kids, they've got his, be careful, it's got a death curse," like that guy. And then that character grew into somebody that I wanted to know more about, I think, so I ended up writing him as a fuller character and actually trying to think of it more as kind of a proper production. So at that point then, my partner Amy came on board, and we started writing a redraft of my idea together. So we went back to the drawing board as far as rewriting the film. There was quite a lot of stuff that we ended up cutting, wasn't there? Like,
the story changed so much.
so many times.
So many times.
Yeah. There's probably about 15 drafts, I'd say, altogether.
We got a bit carried away, didn't we? Making it a bit too
Twisty
and too weird.
There was going to be a woman involved, and she was
almost like a leader of
she'd like grown
Bigfoot,
attached to them and was looking after them and had lived in the area and treated them like her family. I think we were going to do something that happened to her sons, so she'd kind of adopted these big feet as a surrogate parent to them almost, and then was going to feed me to them.
Yeah, there was going to be some sort of cult type thing at the end, wasn't there? That she was
the leader of.
Yeah.
But it was just too complicated.
Trapper dying halfway through.
Oh yeah, we were gonna. So where Trapper leaves in the cut now, we were originally going to kill him. I think actually the first way we wrote it was I'd wrote my death earlier on, so that I could stop acting, because my brain was like, right, I'll just do a bit of acting, then I'll get killed off, and then I can just concentrate on shooting for like the last half of the film kind of thing. And then we settled on him leaving me there and then coming back at the end. Making
Trapper the
antagonist.
Yeah.
So hopefully people will watch it past the credits at the very end to see
that's
his
my
final part.
Favourite bit. Oh, there was a time when you were going to cut that out and I just pleaded with you to not. I really wanted to keep that bit in.
And we tried it before the credits as well. It didn't work as well because I felt like there was two endings with kind of Sarah's ending and then
the landing of it.
Well. The other thing that we cut out was I was putting quite a lot of mental health stuff into it because I feel like men's mental health isn't really talked about that much. It's talked about more now than it was even 2 years ago actually, so I suppose it has got better.
Yeah.
But as someone who struggles with their mental health, I had also written an entire subplot that is taken out of the film now, where I had got out at a facility where I was having treatment for a suicide attempt.
Yeah.
And I had been tasked by the doctors in the hospital to record a video diary every day because of being a filmmaker. They'd say, well, record it then, like just shoot a video diary if you're more
something that makes you happy, something that makes you
So originally the reason that I was talking to camera, the justification of me recording my thoughts was that I was having to record this mental health vlog anyway as an accountability thing for myself. But then I would also take this job at the same time and end up in that situation. Again, it was just too convoluted. It wasn't simple enough.
Too many
threads.
Yeah, too many threads going on. Because I think we also gave Trapper a little bit more of a.
He had more mental health.
More of a mental health.
Yeah, there was actually a talk in the middle of the film that was cut where we're both going, okay, why are you really here? Ultimately, though, it kind of killed the pace dead. So that was another thing with the rewriting. And the editing process of editing as we went was trying to keep the pace up without bogging it down too much, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There was also like more characters as well. There was two fishermen who were going to be like a comedy double act early on that we ended up cutting because one of the fishermen dropped out, so we only had one. And then we shot that and it didn't quite work. And we'd written stuff with Trapper, like, who the fuck were they? What are they?
Yeah.
We had to cut that stuff too.
It was two different locations, wasn't it? And they didn't merge when it come to editing.
Yeah.
So.
Eventually, around draft 15, we managed to settle on something that made sense, and we were happy to go and shoot. And then you started putting together props and costumes then, so you did all the digital stuff, didn't you? Like you made the Facebook for Trapper, Facebook posts, newspaper things, and
the corkboard.
Designed all that stuff, made the articles using like your iPad.
The costume itself, you already had a gorilla costume. It was a cheap gorilla costume. Just lying around. It was pretty easy to adapt, to be fair. The face being rubber or some sort of plastic, the hair then sewn on to the plastic, so it was literally just give him a little bit of a receding hairline, I guess, and there was enough head there to kind of use to make it look more like Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And then it was just a matter of highlighting facial features on there, knowing that majority of the footage was going to be filmed at night, just using highlights to pick out eyes and nose details, and then adding some extra hair to the face as well.
And some grey hairs and some aging stuff as well, didn't you?
A lot of the hair on the back of the head is actually just some cheap hair extensions from eBay or whatever that I had to try and sew on.
And when you did that corkboard for Andrew's PI character, the classic like side pose Bigfoot picture, like the Patterson picture, was
actually one of your photos?
We took a frame from a music video that we did with the same costume, actually, wasn't it?
Utilising the Bigfoot costume.
In the gap between autumn and autumn, shot a music video for a band called Blue Heron from America using that costume, but it was like a full comedy thing. The only thing that I did buy was a replica plaster cast of a Bigfoot footprint, because I knew I wanted to put footprints in it. I didn't want to try and make something myself. I wanted to use something genuine. I think it's a replica from the Patterson-Gimlin area. I think it is supposed to be the replica of the print that coined the term Bigfoot. We went through, like me and Paul went through, the really worrying process of trying to wet ground enough to get it to push in, and then trying to push this plaster with even weight across it so it didn't snap. So we had the script and that was ready to go. I knew how I wanted to shoot the film. I knew I wanted to be true to the found footage aesthetic, and I wanted to not add music to it. I didn't want to add bass drops and sound effects and things to it. I wanted it to try and live as something that could be found on somebody's camera. So I knew that the dialogue was going to be quite loose, so I needed somebody that could improvise. So when I went about casting the film, firstly I cast myself as the main character, just because it's so much easier to go out and shoot something when you're the only person who you need to go make it happen. As an autistic person, it's quite difficult for me to work with large groups of people, do traditional casting, things like that. The other thing that I learned from making this film was I can go make a film the way I make a film and still have it come out and still have people watch it. It's not automatically dismissed because it's not done the proper way. So for me, this was the first step in finding out how I make films, which is kind of how I'm going to go forward making stuff. So Paul Black, who plays Trapper, I actually met through Amy. She knew him from tattooing because he was a tattooist. And she'd shown me pictures of him, and I was like, this guy is going to be perfect. Put that guy in a cowboy hat and he is, you know, that kind of crazy looking guy who lives in the woods, you know. So I reached out to him. He was really lovely. He was like, yeah, definitely, I'll come and meet you, we'll talk about it. So we actually met in Wetherspoons, which is a chain pub in the UK, in Blackwood in the Valleys, which is kind of halfway between where both of us lived. Took a bunch of Bigfoot books to give him to work on the character, told him about how I wanted to make the film. I think naively it was like, maybe it was August, and I was like, yeah, so we'll gear up now, we'll start shooting in September, we'll wrap it by November because I want to shoot it over autumn for the nice colours. By the time all the leaves fall, we'll be done, and we would have made a feature. So Paul was really enthusiastic about the camera. He took the books, he went home and he read them, he watched a bunch of stuff. I let him work out all the character backstory and who Trapper was and where he came from, and actually a lot of the stuff that he says in character is on the deleted scenes of the DVD, and the things Paul's talking about, living in London, the Native American giveaway, actually happened to him, you know, hanging out with the bikers. This is all stuff that he did. It was a part of his life, and he brought it into the character and then related it to the Bigfoot story, which was really cool.
But this thing they have is not like a funeral, it's called a giveaway, and they give out little trinkets and little presents, and if you want, you know. And you go and you form an orderly line and you meet these people and shake their hand, and I've never been so in awe, and it's the only time in my life I've ever felt spiritual about anything.
So while Paul was prepping the character, Amy was getting the props and the costumes ready, and I was prepping the technical side of the film. I was going to use this camera, the Sony ZV-1 that I mentioned earlier. I also bought a GoPro. It's quite an old GoPro, but it's still shot HD, with a chest mount for Paul to wear, because I knew there was going to be dialogue scenes that I would need to cut between the two of us. So I thought, GoPro on him, I'll shoot with this vlogging camera. Between that we should get all the coverage we need. And the audio Paul actually ran himself, so he had an audio recorder in his pocket, and we ran the wire up with a little lapel mic clipped to him, and I had a mic on top of this camera. And that just about covered us for the audio for the film. The inspiration for the look, the way the scenes land, and the ramp up of tension mostly came from my love of Blair Witch, really. It's a film, you know, I've got it tattooed on my finger, like I love it that much. It was probably the first found footage film I saw when I was a kid. I was probably 15 when it came out, maybe a little bit older, maybe 17. And I remember getting swept up in the campaign that they created, you know, and the hype of it, and going on. I think the website was like, whoistheblairwitch.com. It was something like that was part of the story. I remember going on the website, going through all the documents, and being like, this thing is real, and seeing all the things that were like, this is the most terrifying thing you will ever see, being terrified in the trailer. And it was on the days when, you know, it was dial-up modem, so it cost by the minute you were on the internet. So I remember like it dialing up and waiting for the website to load and feeling like a trepidation in my stomach. So I was like, oh, I'm going to go on the Blair Witch website, and it felt like this really strange, scary thing that I was just doing kind of by myself that regular people didn't know about. And then I think soon after that I saw the Curse of the Blair Witch documentary they had made, which you've probably seen if you're watching this disc, but it's a really amazing, kind of slightly cheesy, maybe like History Channel style documentary as if the Blair Witch is real. Then I saw the actual film and I couldn't get enough of it. Totally amazing. And when I was putting together Foxhollow, I read 7 Days in the Woods, which is the making of that film, and how they got the performances out of characters, things that they did to keep it loose, how they improvised scenes, and a lot of that stuff we took into the writing process. I'd also seen the Lost Coast tapes, which is a really good Bigfoot found footage film. Definitely think the inspiration for the Trapper character comes from the guy they meet in that film, bit of a loner, obsessed with Bigfoot, out in the woods by himself. I was just getting into all that Bigfoot stuff. I was reading a lot about it, watching a lot of things about it, and I think maybe I'd seen Willow Creek at the time, the Bobcat Goldthwait film, and that really influenced me to go make something like that as well. So I took all those inspirations and parked them in the back of my head, ready for when we would start to shoot. So what would end up being the first block of filming started around September in 2023. I started purposely with just me doing a bunch of stuff by myself, getting into it, getting used to talking to a camera. For me, it was kind of a new experience, talking to camera and recording my thoughts and things. So I shot some stuff just by myself first, just to get into it, and then the first actual proper shoot day, I met Paul in Blaenavon, which is where we shot most of the wood stuff, and we kind of went straight into it. We met, drove there. Paul had bought some clothing options for Trapper. We went through those, picked what he was going to wear, put some messy stuff in the back of his car, wrappers and things, so it looked like he was living in there. And then we went into the woods, and again it was really, really loose. I was kind of nervous because it was the first day on something that I hoped would be a feature, my first feature, so it was a big deal for me. Didn't really know each other that well, but things like that I tried to play on as much as possible and create as much as possible. I think we shot for maybe 4 hours, and I literally just let him go because I didn't want to give him too much direction, and I also wanted to be able to react naturally to what he was saying and have him react naturally to what I was saying. So we kept it a secret from each other, actually, what we were going to come out with. A lot of the stuff you see where he's showing, like, he's like, they nest here, or they pull the leaves down, or the bit where he's like, imagine what they could do to a man's head with a smashed log. A lot of that stuff just came from me going, right, we're going to set up camp on the first day. We're going to go down to the creek and you're going to tell me about your sighting. But on the way, show me a bunch of stuff that will make me think there might be something here. So he was just improvising all of those things as we were walking through the woods. And by the time we got to the end of that first day, we were comfortable with each other, we got on well, and I was like, okay, this is actually going to work.
I'll make a believer out here, yeah. You leave me wearing a cowboy hat now before we know it.
I don't know about that, man. Like, there were moments while I was in character filming that I wanted to smile, or I wanted to be like, yeah, that was good, play on that, and actually direct it, because that was another new experience for me as well. Usually when somebody does something good, you can be like, right, this bit's great, lean on that in your next take, or make that land at the end of the scene, because that's the end there. And you know how it's going to cut together, because you're imagining the edit as it's happening. I obviously couldn't do any of that this time, so I was on camera with his GoPro while he was surprising me with good stuff in takes. So that I found quite difficult as well, like trying to frame him and keep it down myself and not be a director, just be an actor and just be in that scenario without removing myself and actually thinking about how it's going to cut together later.
You're going to do a look, man, I got to go.
Yeah, I'll have to do that, yeah.
Maybe when did you, I'd burst out laughing and just stay looking here.
And turn back to me then, so I can be like, because that's what I'll cut to is your camera. Okay, one more time, man. But then when I got home and cut it together, I was like, okay, this is going to work. Like, this as a format is a way that we can actually make something. And if I structure the scenes a little bit tighter and I rewrite as we go, we should be able to get a film out of this. So the nights where it was just me alone in the woods, usually at night actually we shot together, didn't we? I don't know if we did that much day stuff. You were playing Bigfoot in the scenes where you could see Bigfoot, and when you weren't, you were moving around on the outside of my tent.
pretending to be yeah.
This is the first take of me hearing the noises on night 2.
Yeah,
throwing stuff at me.
Yeah.
You threw rocks at me at that one bit where it gets pelted with rocks. You threw you were snapping sticks and you were doing some tree knocking, I think. At some
tree
point.
knocking, yeah. I'm not sure if that came out, but yeah, tree knocking. What's a better sound?
I won't. That. Yeah, as hard as you can so it echoes. Take 1 and me packing up camp and hearing sounds. Again, the idea of that being from the 7 Days in the Woods, Making a Blair Witch book that I was reading at the time, where they had told the actors where to go, set them up with everything they need, and then gone back into the woods, tracking them through the woods at night and throwing stuff around, making noises, screaming, doing things to actually freak them out. Obviously I knew Amy was going to be there, but I didn't know what she was going to do. I didn't know her proximity to my tent. So I knew what scene I needed to do and what beats I needed to hit, and I would just go in and I would just act it. Or if I was walking through the woods, I would know where I'd need to go to, but I didn't necessarily know where you were at any time, especially once it got dark. And I think it helped me get in the headspace where I was actually slightly on edge, especially in the tent when you were like coming up and touching the tent or walking right past it and stuff.
To be fair, those woods are pretty spooky in the dark. We weren't out there that late, to be fair. It was probably only about like 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, but yeah, those woods are pretty spooky in the night time. I remember when we were shooting the bit with the glowing eyes, obviously I've got the head on and like I haven't got any sort of sense of like touch or space going on because my hearing and everything's just impaired, and then to add those eyes into the eye sockets so I can't see anything just on top of all of that is really, really freaky. I probably only had the eyes in for like 2 minutes, but it felt like forever. You're right in front of me?
No.
Oh God.
Jones, I was doing a shot then, don't move around.
I'm sorry, it was scary. Yeah. And I kept shouting out, checking that you were still even in the.
I was trying to get the shot. I was trying because it's.
I kept ruining it.
It was the yellow reflectors we put, and they were bike reflectors, weren't they? So I could shine a torch at it, and they'd kind of glow.
But because you were quiet and you were shooting,
so I was acting.
I'd assumed you'd left me in the forest on my own.
And you were panicking. Yeah, you were
quite freaky.
And then there was that day that you forgot to take the head.
So, the curse of Bigfoot. I've only gone and fucking forgot the head, didn't I?
Shot where
first night of shooting.
I go up the tree and Bigfoot's feet walk past. Was in the thing, but it's on his feet because
I didn't have the head.
You didn't have a head. You didn't have a head on.
We drove the whole hour up to Blaenavon and didn't even clock that. Didn't have it.
Neither did
walking through the forest, all happy.
I think we set up the tents and stuff.
Everything, and then it just clicked. I haven't got the head.
Fuck.
I haven't got the head. Yeah. Oh, look, Ellie's getting the jig.
Come on, your interview now. Come on, good girl.
Do you like Bigfoot? Do you believe in Bigfoot? I don't think you do you?
So then we shot from September to November in 2023. We'd run through scenes and block stuff out and change things as it was happening. We'd improvise stuff, like if we came across something that we found, we would improvise there. We split the locations between the woods in Blaenavon, which is where I lived for a while, it's where some of my family are from, and the woods in Merthyr by where Paul lives, which actually he grew up running around those woods and spending a lot of time in them as well. So we were both using landmarks and things that we knew, trails that we knew, to create this landscape that the film would exist in.
Actually. So do you think it would have hurt them if they weren't in a car?
It could have torn them apart at any second if it had wanted to.
Then all the leaves fell off the trees, and the beautiful colours that I wanted to have in the film died off, and we hadn't finished filming. And I was worried about it because I'd also cut the footage, seen what was working and what wasn't working, and it was less than what I thought it would be. So we put a pin in it for a second and I went back to the drawing board. It was at that point that me and Amy started writing again, and we added the characters of the PI and the park ranger. PI was played by Andrew Lennon and the park ranger by Sarah Louise Tyler. I really liked how immersive the just found footage element was, but I also found that having a break from that and creating anticipation for when we'd cut back to them in the woods was making things more exciting. I had come up with a couple of sections that actually didn't make it into the final film. Fake news reports about them going missing, things like that. And that had kind of solidified that idea for me. It was also seeing Lake Mungo as well, which is probably one of my favourite found footage films. To me, it's the creepiest found footage film ever made. And the fake documentary style with the talking head interviews, the news things, all that, makes it for me. I think it's absolutely amazing. So after seeing that and having the idea to cut away from the action, I thought, okay, let's mess with the timeline a little bit and let's have somebody who found their footage, like who actually found it. And then let's have her get basically a gag order and need to do therapy because it upset her so much, and hire someone to look into the case while she's off work and she's not allowed to look into it herself because she's technically still employed by the park. I really like the idea that the Park Service will not acknowledge people going missing, strange disappearances, any of it, because ultimately it is based on the Park Service in America, because obviously the Pacific Northwest is where most of the Bigfoot activity is. And the Missing 411 series by David Paulides is amazing and really, really integral in a lot of the backstory for what was happening with these missing people. But most importantly, in the Park Service not acknowledging that there are strange occurrences in these really large, wide open natural spaces. And when people go missing, it's either not reported publicly or it's dealt with internally, and it's kind of brushed under the rug a little bit, and it does a bit of a disservice to those people. So as a small nod to that and some kind of commentary on how I think that's pretty unfair, I really wanted the Park Service to completely deny involvement in the film and to not want Sarah to look into it or talk about it as well.
I had found reports dating back to the 80s of hikers going missing in this area with no trace, no footage, and then clothes, items of clothing being found miles away from where they disappeared. Really strange stuff.
So then over winter I continued writing, and then that summer we started shooting again. Sarah's Day we actually shot at where she works in the Wales Millennium Centre, and we also went to the same woods in Blaenavon that me and Paul shot at to do her park ranger stuff there. Sarah I'd worked with quite a few times before. She's been in music videos for me more than anything actually. We have done a short film together that will actually make it into a new feature that I'm making, which will be coming next year in 2026. And Sarah's emotional range and how quickly she can connect with an audience emotionally was why I cast her. She had done music videos with me where she needed to be upset somebody had died. I think her husband had died in the one. It was a medieval thing that we shot, and I remember filming her being upset at seeing her husband dead and wishing I had sound, because the take was 3 minutes, and the entire time I was like, this is a shame to have to cut into slow-mo and put into a 20-second part of a music video, you know. She's so good. So when I wanted the ranger to be a woman and it to be more of an emotional connection to the footage, Sarah was the first person I thought of. Andrew was actually cast as the PI because he was friends with Paul. Him and Paul would go to a coffee shop every Friday, and Paul would tell him about this crazy guy from Risca called Tom who's making this Bigfoot film. So when I messaged Paul and said, listen, I need someone to be a PI, I need maybe a middle-aged guy with glasses or somebody who's a good actor who can learn lines well and just smash something out in a day. Immediately Paul was like, Andrew, you have to meet Andrew. So thankfully Andrew was interested, so we shot it in practice rooms in Newport. It's called One Louder Studios. They rent things out to bands. I tend to shoot performance footage for bands there, which is how I knew them. They really kindly let me use their office that they actually do all their business in. If you look closely in the background, we've hidden most of it, but you can see snacks on the shelf. You can see guitar strings at points because they're actually selling stuff out of there to bands. And the computer and that desk and everything is where they do all the organisational bookings and things for that business. I literally think we shot all Andrew's stuff in an hour and a half max, and he was absolutely brilliant. Like, I was taken aback by how amazing he was and how much he'd put into it as well. You'll see on the bloopers actually the phone call that he made to his partner saying he's not coming home because he's working late and he's having a pot noodle and a cup of tea. Like, that was completely improvised.
Instant noodles and a cup of tea. Yeah, really know how to live here, babe. Yeah, I know. I had it last night as well. Yeah, that's fine. I'll be fine. Look, just save me a pudding. I'll be back by about 10 o'clock. Right, we'll have a cuddle then.
I didn't realise how much depth he could put into a character or how funny he was until I met him. So I was very, very happy to get Andrew on board, and you'll be seeing him in more of my upcoming films as well. So by this point it was summer 2024, almost a year after we'd started filming, and we're waiting for autumn again. So once the leaves started to change again, me and Paul got back into the woods and we finished everything off. I think the last day that we did was so windy, I was really struggling with sound. We did all the campfire stuff and we did the night stuff as well. So we did the final night and his final night. Before we were doing the night stuff, I think we had shot from maybe 10 a.m. to about 4, and it was freezing. It was so cold, and we had done really well to get everything we needed to earlier than we wanted, but because I needed it to be dark to finish off the shoot, we just had to wait. So me and him just sat there pretty miserable in the cold and the drizzle for about 3 or 4 hours, just waiting for it to get dark enough to be able to shoot dusk stuff at camp, setting up the trail cam we shot that night, the trail cam footage of the tent that you see, and then the final night stuff as well. When I get dragged off at the end, it's Paul dragging me, and when I get hit by Bigfoot, that's Paul hitting me, and when Paul gets killed at the end, that's me playing Bigfoot to kill him. So then the last shoot day we did was another day with just me and Amy. We got so lucky because it was like misty in those woods. It was like a really thin misty rain outside, which just turned into fog as it hit the trees. So that final day we shot all the stuff inside my tent, and we shot when I wake up and Trapper's gone and he's left me there. A lot of these stuff was improvised, the dialogue was improvised. You'll see the part where I'm walking out of the woods and I go, the nearest house is that far away. I just saw that on the mountain and just swung the camera around to show it, and a lot of the frustration was real as well. I was struggling at the time, and when I'm losing my rag with stuff and I'm actually going, fuck this guy in this film and all this other stuff. The film I'm talking about is Making Foxhollow. It's not the documentary in the film. I'm actually really fed up at this point with 2 years of trying to get this film off the ground and just feeling like I'm ice skating uphill to finish it.
That's me done. Absolutely fucking done. Done with this shit, all this stupid fucking film. I'm with this guy. Right, so I need to stop in line with that rock. I need to get to here, whip to you, you roar, pull the thing up and then go.
So once we'd done all the daytime stuff, then we ended up doing the night scenes with the final stuff for Bigfoot. It's amazing how difficult it is to shoot in the woods at night once it gets dark, because you immediately lose all your equipment.
Okay. So go in front of the light sack. Cool. And then yeah, do a big roar and then charge at me, basically.
Like if everything isn't in one place, like we had torches, we knew where we were, like I'm so used to being in that section of the woods by then, but it's so difficult because even like going from here to a few meters away becomes something that you have to try and navigate. So I think shooting that final night where you actually see Bigfoot, trying to backlight it, not show too much of the creature. There were scenes that we shot where you do see more of it, but it just looked a bit too much like a suit. I think I pared back how much we see it as well, just to make it scarier. I think your imagination makes it scarier than actually seeing any kind of monster. We actually passed a couple on the way in who had set up this really nice picnic. It looked so romantic, and they had a blanket, they had all this stuff out or whatever, and we walked past them and Amy had like, I don't know if she had the suit on or she had the suit in a bag or something, and we had like the head which was on like a fake dummy, and she had like black across her eyes because so we couldn't see her eyes through the mask, and I had like all this crazy stuff on, all this crazy gear and stuff, and they looked like we're just in two different worlds, you know, as a couple. Like we walked past them and they looked at us just like, what are they doing? And I think we'd scared them actually, because we were doing quite a lot of loud stuff running around the woods with me freaking out and panicking and shouting, and when we walked back through to leave then they had packed up and gone, so decided actually not to camp there because like two weirdos were there dressing up as Bigfoot and running around the woods screaming. So with that the film was wrapped, and then I spent maybe a year cutting it. I had been cutting as I was going, I was editing, and I was leaving gaps, kind of doing a jigsaw puzzle and leaving gaps in the edit for scenes that I hadn't shot yet. Thankfully I had a few people I could send the edits to as I was going. So Sean Thomas, who's a director from Cardiff, like a good friend I've been making things with for years, he gave me some really good notes on it, and me and him actually sat down and went through a cut of the film, which was really beneficial for me, because every time it cut to something that I had put in because I liked it, or because I know we had waited in the cold for 3 hours to be able to get that scene, and all the personal things that were in there, he questioned and would be like, okay, why is that there? What's that doing to drive the story forward? Why does this need to be there? What does this scene mean? And trying to answer those difficult questions forced me to go, okay, that one's there because I really like the way it ends, or that one's there because I really like the camera work on that one, or that one's there because it was really difficult to get, and I feel like if I don't put it in, I'll be wasting it. And that was really, really helpful. It's the kill your darlings thing that I always talk about, specifically in filmmaking and editing, is sometimes you have to lose things to make the film better, even if you're really in love with them as the filmmaker. I think technically I should have had a sound man. I think the crew should have been slightly bigger. I think it was really ambitious for what it was, but I also feel like if you don't swing for the fences with no budget and go out there and do something really ambitious, it's just not going to happen. You're going to give up halfway, or you're going to go, oh no, I need X, Y or Z to make a film, and if I don't get those things, I'm not making anything. And I think that's kind of a surefire way to be a filmmaker who talks about films rather than one who actually makes films. So once the edit was done and it was all locked off, then I did the crowdfund campaign, and that's where you come in, or you lovely people who actually supported the film and bought a disc. So that was how this really strange, small Bigfoot movie in South Wales came together over the last 2 years. I will be releasing more films with Ritual Video, so if you liked Foxhollow, there's another one coming very soon, and as I said, there will be another one next year as well. So thanks so much for picking up this disc and supporting underground film in Wales. Shouldn't have come here.
If you go looking for monsters, then you'll find them.